Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode number 76 of the WP Café show with me, Mark Wilkinson, and my co-host, Keith Devon. Welcome along, everybody. I hope you're all well. We've got a couple of WordPressy things to chat through today. And as always, if you have questions for us, for anyone involved in the chat, then please let us know. We'd love to get into your questions. We like it when it's nice and chatty in there, so do that, and do let us know who you are, where you're from, where you're watching from or listening from. That would be great as well. So how's your week been, Keith, to start us all off? We used to do a little
It's been okay. Yeah, I've don't have any mojo this week. Found work to be a little bit frustrating. Yeah, so we'll talk about some of that. But yeah, a bit up and down. There's some interesting stuff going on, isn't there? And then there's some stuff that's just like feels like a bit of a grind sometimes.
yeah, I think that's always the case, isn't it?
So yeah, it's one of those weeks. But it's a beautiful sunny day, and I'm going to go for a bike ride after this. So I'm looking forward to that.
It is. Yeah. It's lovely here as well. Really nice weather today, which makes a change since it rained for like 6 months up here. But we'll see. But my week's not been too bad. I've been ill this week though. I had a day where I was really rough, just cold and sneezing and stuff and headaches, and then I was a bit better the next day, and then pretty much back to normal today. But still a bit not chesty. What do they call it when it's up here? Congested maybe, but no.
You didn't look good on Tuesday. I thought.
Was it Tuesday?
You looked like you were on death's door or something. Yeah, it was.
Well, I've survived.
You really did look grey. Do you know when people say you look grey and you think it's just a turn of phrase? You literally did. Like it was, yeah.
Well, that's why.
Looking better now.
Good. Right. So on our list of things today, we've got blog posts on the homepage of WordPress. We've got a bit about WordPress.org, a bit about WordPress.com, customer reviews, and getting our email to work.
Yeah.
Or not, as the case may be, which has been a bit of a painful process. So, yeah. So this first topic is based off of a tweet that I saw from Jamie Marsland, Poodle Press, who has a YouTube channel, does some good videos. And he's saying, is it time to stop showing posts on the homepage of a WordPress site by default? And I just thought that was an interesting question because by default, when you install WordPress, it does. The homepage of your site is your blog, because WordPress is kind of legacy, isn't it? Has always been for blogs, and therefore it by default shows your latest, however many, 12. Is it 12 by default or 10? I can't remember. On the homepage of your site.
Yeah.
And Jamie just mentioned, is it time that was not the case? And I assume he means, well, I don't know what he means, but I'm going to assume that he means like a home page is created and that's set to be the front page of your site. But with full site editing, do we need that, or do we just edit the template for the front page and put the content in there? That's a difficult question, I think. But yeah, I think for me, in principle, yes. It's literally the first thing I do on every site install is to go and set that up. Homepage, set it to the homepage, news page or blog page, set it to the blog page. And I know for other developers, it's pretty much the same thing. And for the really cool developers, they'll automate it, I know. But, we're not that cool, so we just go and do it manually.
Definitely not cool.
So yeah, but I wonder what everyone else's experience is with that. Is that something that as people would like to have changed? Is it something that really doesn't bother you? It'd be good to know. What do you think, Keith?
I think 100% that needs to change. Maybe people have statistics that show that people still use their homepage as a kind of blog page more, like most of the time. In my experience, it never is. Like
no.
We don't. Well, I know we're slightly different because we're an agency building websites, and it's kind of more kind of brochureware business websites, and so you never have your homepage is never your blog page ever in that circumstance. But I did know, like, it really is kind of built into WordPress that is the way. It always kind of has been, like you say, you always need to go and change that setting. By default, it always starts as the blog page. But even today on WordPress.com, you go to edit your homepage on a WordPress.com site, and the template you're editing is called Blog Home.
Wow.
At least it is in the theme that I've used, which we will be talking about in more
Oh,
detail. And it's not a page, it's a template. And that's the other thing. Why? Why isn't the homepage just a page like any other page? Why do we need, why does it need to be this kind of separate template within full site editing? So I would kind of address that at the same time as well. For me, it's just a page like any other page.
I think that might be a legacy thing, isn't it?
Homepage.
In that there's always been a front page template in the themes.
Yeah.
Because you might want to set it to a page, but it might want a different template to the rest because it's the front page. That's the theory.
Yeah.
But
I just don't really get that though, because
only ever applies to one page. So I suppose you could argue, why not just edit the template then? Because it only applies to one page. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit confusing for users, I think. Templates, pages.
Massively confusing for users because you go into your pages list and there's no page called home. And it's like, so how do I edit that page? All right, I've got to go into appearance, editor, templates, blog home to get to my homepage. Like, yeah.
But if your front page listed the blog posts, would you still expect to edit that page by going to pages and then editing the homepage?
Yes.
You still would. Even though you know it's not a page.
The average user just thinks it's a page. Like, what else? Maybe not. Maybe not.
Don't know.
In that case. But for me, that's a page. And I just think with full site editing, I just don't get why that's a separate template when you can do all the things that you would want to do within the page editor. Why do you need to be in the template editor? Like, does the template editor give you kind of extra powers that the page editor doesn't give you?
I don't know, but if it does, I want these powers. It sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know. But so for me, a homepage should be a page. I haven't, unless someone's got a really good argument that it isn't.
Not sure.
And no, it shouldn't show your latest blog posts.
No, it shouldn't by default, definitely. I don't think it should anyway. Yeah. Elliot says, isn't it because the template system adheres to the same principles as classic themes? Yeah, that's where I was kind of getting at. The home and front page templates are created optionally, and all post content consistently falls back to the index. So that's why I think it happens, yeah. I think perhaps what we're saying here is that since we've changed things, why has it not changed with FSE themes? Yeah. Because it kind of makes sense, but...
Yeah, I think absolutely it makes sense to maybe have a blog template, and maybe you can set your homepage to use that template or something like that. But yeah, anyway, that's what I think.
Xlams, thanks for getting in touch. It says, I have a starter environment theme that I can clone, so I don't need to set the home and post page when creating a new site. Interesting. And it also, I said that twice. Is that good? It's the same thing. Thanks for that. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think it should not be default to show blog posts. It should be defaulted to a page called home. It sits in the page listing. And I suppose one way that they could get around the fact that you have to edit the template is that they could just make the edit button on that page, just go to edit the template. So as far as you're aware, you think you're editing a page, maybe. I don't know. But I do find the whole template parts pages confusing. Not as much confusing for me because I understand themes, but if you don't understand that theme architecture and structure, that doesn't really make much sense.
But yeah, again, within like full site editing, so if you're logged in and you've got the admin bar, if you're on a page, there's an edit page link.
Yep.
If you're on the home page, it says edit site, so it doesn't even say edit template. Or edit home template. It just says edit site, and then it takes you to the template editor for the homepage. So this is the whole experience. But yeah, like I said, we'll get into it in a bit more depth. But
Peter, hi Peter, thanks for getting in touch. It is confusing. It would be interesting to automatically add a homepage in the page listings that goes to the homepage template when using block themes. Yeah, something along those lines. I think something different to what we've got now, I think, definitely.
Yeah.
Would be better.
Yeah. It just feels to me like with the Gutenberg project, they they've changed things so dramatically in so many ways, and there's this massive kind of fuss in the community from people like us, and I just think if you're gonna do that, and it's just this massive sort of breaking change, why not take that as an opportunity to like revisit some of these
To break a lot
like
more.
legacy ideas? Like, surely this is the point where we say, yeah, we don't really need a blog, not a blog template or a home template, or like we're going to do things in a new way that actually makes sense for like modern use cases. It just feels weird that we're kind of tied to some of this legacy stuff, but we're ripping out loads of other legacy stuff. But maybe it is just a transition, and all this is gonna,
Yeah.
we'll get there in time, hopefully.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. It's getting better all the time, I must admit. So hopefully we'll do that. Right, that was that. There's nothing else to say on that one. Next on the list was something I noticed on WordPress.org, which is that the developer section, which is developer.wordpress.org, which I think I did a banner for. Show, there we go.
Nice.
Is been redesigned, and I think it's a massive improvement. I don't know if anyone else has had a chance to look at it. It's split it. The homepage of the developer section is split into documentation, and then you've got like block editor, themes, plugins, common APIs, which was nice. So you can get a list of all the APIs in WordPress, like the HTTP API for doing requests. Advanced administration, and then the WordPress playgrounds there, which is where you can spin up a WordPress site in the browser dead quick, which was interesting. And then there's an API reference underneath that. REST API stuff. Then there's the developer blog, which we've mentioned on this show before as being much improved. Some really quality articles been pushed out onto that blog. So if you've not read it recently, there's lots of good stuff on there. How to do stuff in the block editor. There's an interesting one at the moment from Justin Tadlock, building dynamic block-based attachment templates in themes, which I thought was interesting, which is good. So it's interesting. It's been redesigned. I think it's nice. I think it's a nice addition. Yeah. Have you seen it? Have you looked at it? Have you interacted?
I had not noticed that, so I don't know when. Do you know when this was changed?
No, but I think it was recently.
Yeah, in the last couple of weeks, maybe.
Could be. Yeah, don't think it's months ago. It's certainly recent.
Just noticed a bug on the developer blog where it lists the author of the post. It says bye for every article. Bye, Justin Tadlock, as in, yeah. But yeah, no, really good. I'll have to have a dig around. So I'm guessing the individual pages are, it's looking really nice, and it's great to see that stuff like this is being worked on, because I think it's so important. Like we've complained before about the developer experience is kind of feels like it's gone downhill, and documentation was generally pretty poor. So to see that there's actually, even if it's just aesthetic, I mean, aesthetics is important because you have to look at these pages and navigate your way around them. So I think it feels good.
I think the content's got a lot better as well. I said in a few episodes ago when I was building that adding fields to a block, I found the documentation to be much improved from when I'd last looked at it, probably 12, 18 months ago. It was quite confusing back then, but it was much better, much more coherent and consistent and things like that. So I think there's definitely a lot of work being done on it, which is great to see, and long may it continue. So well done to everybody who was involved with that.
Absolutely.
I don't know who you are. I apologise, but if you were involved, well done. Thank you.
Yeah, well done and thank you. Definitely, that's looking really good.
Yep. Right. Next on the list is WordPress.com, and I know you've been having some positives, negatives, battles with it over the course of the last week or so. Do you want to tell us what you were doing, why you were doing it, and what the things you found?
I think I mentioned it on a previous show. A friend of mine has a new drone business and came to me asking for a website. And I thought, I don't really want to be involved in managing it, like from a kind of hosting point of view going forward and updates and all that. So, but I did want to keep him on WordPress, partly because I sort of know WordPress, and partly I wanted to use it as an opportunity just to see what building a website within WordPress is like from a kind of user point of view. So we went for .com, picked a theme. It's called Outland. It's a theme by Automatic. And the first day, I was just like literally my friend Terry was sitting beside me, and we just kind of got things set up. Started adding some content. Things were kind of looking really nice. Like the onboarding, I think I talked about the onboarding before, and
Yes,
it's all pretty nice, and it was good. And then we met up again yesterday, and it started to unravel a little bit. So we were trying to do some of the internal pages. So previously we just focused on the homepage, and we pretty much used the homepage template as it was and just put our content in and removed some of the sections we didn't need. But we didn't kind of edit the layout of that too much.
Yep.
And so we were like, right, we need pages for each of your services. So we were like starting to build the page, and then just suddenly everything just became a little bit tricky. So
what
started with a blank template. The first thing that came about while I'm sitting with him is he was explaining how he wanted this page to maybe look. So we had a service, and then he has a list of kind of deliverables for each of the services, and within each deliverable there's like how it's done and the benefits to it and stuff like that. So I just put it basically as a list, and I downloaded a table of contents block that I've used before.
Yep.
So I had like table of contents block, a little sidebar on the left, and then I had basically all the headings, and you could just like jump link down to them. And he said, yeah, that's all right, but like, could we have it as a kind of grid layout? I was like, oh God, here we go. And I was like, sort of. So I typed grid. Oh, there's a grid block. I'm like, sweet. It's not a grid block. First of all, I couldn't get it to go full width. Like I just couldn't get it to sit centrally and like wide in the content area. It just kind of, I don't know
so
why.
Full width meaning touching the edges of the screen?
No, in this case, it was just filling the block that it was in. It just kind of seemed to like take the content, and that was the width of it. Maybe if I'd added more content, it would have, I don't know. It was weird. And then the second thing is I couldn't add more rows. It was like so it seemed like a glorified columns block.
Right.
So I was confused by that. So I'm sitting there as an expert of like 15 years in WordPress, telling one of my best friends that I can't create a grid layout. So that was kind of embarrassing. So we scrapped that idea. I couldn't believe it. And then he was like, well, can we have it as a kind of like accordion? So if I kind of click on the headings, it kind of shows the information for that particular heading. And I was like, we probably could, mate, but I've got no idea how. So I looked, is there an accordion block or a tabs block? No.
Details block?
Yeah, but it's not
very good though, is it?
It's not. It didn't look nice. It was like super basic. So yeah, again, it was like he's asking for these really simple things and simple UIs and layouts, and I can't deliver them. So kind of embarrassing for me. So there was that. So I just said, look, we'll deal with all this stuff later. We're just getting something up and running. We can finesse things later on. So he was happy with that. We got it looking nice the way it was with the table of contents and stuff.
Yep.
And that was fine. So we got that page kind of working. And then I went back in last night just to fiddle about with it again. Because I was like, there's a few things I just want to do, just because he was going to replicate that page for his other services.
Right.
Like duplicate it. So I thought I just want to tidy this up and make that look really nice. So I went in, I thought, right, I'm going to add a call to action section at the bottom of the page. And I want that to be like a full width block. So full width of the screen with a background color, kind of prominent kind of call to action. Couldn't do it. So I set my
block
group. So I set a full width group.
Yeah.
And it wasn't full width. So it still has margins down the side on the front end. Not on the back end, I don't think, at that point, although it all got very confusing because I was trying various things to fix it, and I totally lost my way. And in the end, after trying multiple things, tweeting about it, trying things that people have suggested, I cannot get it to work. So I could make it full width. So what I ended up doing was going to the page template editor and removing some of the horizontal padding. So it had horizontal padding on one of the elements. I think it was the overall group block of like 5 viewport width. I was like, okay, so if I remove that, set that to 0, and then I'll control the individual paddings on the individual blocks, and I should be able to do it that way. So it did that, but now what it's doing is, because the theme or core is setting some kind of weird negative margin to pull things. So obviously it's expecting there's some padding, and then for full width blocks, it's pulling things back out, but it's not pulling things back out by the padding that's set in the theme. So it's using some clamp, CSS clamp calculation, which I can't add. So I can set my padding as viewport widths or pixels or ems or rems. The one I'm trying to override or work with is this clamp function. So I can't. So what's happening is at small screens, it was pulling my content outside of the screen, and centering it. So it's cut off down both sides. I was like, this is absolutely garbage. Like, if I can't figure that out, and I can't, like, what hope is there for anybody? So I started off like often happens. I started off quite enthusiastic and like, oh, it's come a long way. This is quite nice. And by the end, I was like, I cannot do the basics with this. Yeah. This is fundamentally broken. And I don't know if it's just the theme. Like, you would like to think a theme on WordPress.com by Automatic, like one of the suggested 9 themes, is fairly robust. And don't forget, my friend Terry is paying for this privilege. This isn't WordPress.org with some free theme off the repo. He's paying like 20 quid a month for this product.
Is the theme stopping you from having a full width block? Because it's, is there something in the theme's settings and structure that stops, a full width doesn't actually touch the sides? It's got this gap down the side. Is that in the theme, in the theme JSON to say, I don't know what it'd be, but
there is some setting in theme JSON, like use root padding or something rules. There's something that you can do as a theme developer. Now, I don't know if I don't have control over that as a user though. And
you would in the global settings, global styles, maybe. I don't know where I don't know where that would be though, because you can't control everything in there.
I don't think so. I know there's like a padding. You can go into global styles and then you go into layout and there's padding. I was like, padding for what? Like,
for what?
There's just a generic padding setting. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Like, and I changed it and I couldn't see any effect on the front end. It's just like, it's not good. Like, it really isn't. And I've quite honestly thought now that I'm going to take him off WordPress.com. I'm going to get him to get a refund, and I'm going to move him to Squarespace, because I set up a site for another friend of mine on Squarespace last year, and it was very limited, but it just worked.
Yeah,
like, I still had those things. Yes, I can't do X and I can't do Y, but it just wasn't broken.
Yeah.
And then there was like, and then I looked at it on my phone. I was like, oh my god, that is what the default kind of menu looks like. The mobile menu. It was just the most basic, awful thing.
Maybe you need to pick a different theme.
Well, maybe it was frustrating because I've been tweeting about it and I had quite a few replies and stuff, and I got a reply from Remkus. And he said, which theme are you using? And I was like, Outland, and he's like, oh, I wouldn't have chosen that theme.
Why?
I wouldn't have chosen a theme like that.
Like what?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like the one that is built by Automatic, that's a featured theme on the platform that I'm using. Like, okay, sorry, how was I supposed to know not to choose that theme? I don't.
Yeah,
and he didn't reply. I asked that. And I was like,
why did he say that? And what is it about the theme?
Don't just come in and say things like that and then just bugger off. I was just like, just leave me hanging. Really annoying. I like when people are like trying to be helpful and like engage, but like finish the process.
Don't leave me in limbo. Please help me.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Yeah. The problem I have with the block, I've said this before, you put a group block on the page or something like that, or a block, and then the alignment doesn't appear. You can't align it full width, wide width. It's just not there. So it's like, and then someone, like most people have just said, oh, just group it in a group again. Why?
Well,
and then
someone said that. Brian Cords was like, you need more groups. Just keep nesting things in groups until it works.
Yeah, well, that's what I feel like. It just seems
Yeah.
crazy. And sometimes it seems to work. So you put I don't know, an example, put columns blocking, and then if you group it, you get some controls that you're looking for. It just seems very strange as to why
The
that
number
works. I
of
don't
groups you
understand.
need is G plus 1, where G is the current number of groups that you're using.
Oh
Yeah.
dear. Oh well.
So just a quick question from Elliot here. He said, I think I've heard your concern with the columns block, but can I ask why you didn't use the columns block to simulate a grid? I can answer that. It's because if you have a grid of 3, for example, 3 columns, followed by another 3 columns, followed by another 3 columns, at some point, the columns block breaks into a 2-column grid, and then it'll be 1, 2, and then an orphan 3, 1, 2, orphan 3. So for me, the columns block is useless as a grid replacement, but unless you're using grids of 2 or 4.
Yes.
Yeah. So
even numbers of grids, basically.
That's why.
Yeah, we've had that before.
I feel like what I need to do is, I don't know, just watch all of Jamie's like Poodle Press's videos, or ask Brian Gardner, or like I need some kind of course to take me through. This is how you do the basics, because it's weird.
My issue is, when I've been doing it, is a lot of the stuff you seem to need to have an understanding of CSS more to understand what's happening. I've seen like people do videos and they're just saying, oh, I'm just going to put this block in because it's going to be CSS grid, or it's going to be flexbox item. And I'm like, I don't know what flexbox item is. I haven't a clue what flexbox is. So it doesn't really help me. And it doesn't help the common user because they won't know what flexbox is. So it's not about hooking into that knowledge. There needs to be more obvious for me what's going on to the users, for users.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, I hope so.
I think. We've had a few more comments. That was a column spot. Sorry. Someone asked a question. I'm sure they did. Elliot says, "Have you heard of Canva?"
Yeah.
To build websites with.
Well, we had an interesting chat earlier with a chap who I know from the WordPress London / WordCamp London community, and he's moved from, at least partially, from WordPress to Webflow, and that was really interesting hearing him talk about that. He's very excited about Webflow and what can be done very quickly and effectively. It has its limitations, but I just don't want to do it. I do still sort of believe in WordPress, and I like open source and I like content and data ownership, but I'm struggling.
Yeah, and I agree with Emily here. I had a similar problem recently. I got confusing because you make so many changes so quickly. I agree. It's so easy to change things that you don't know what they are, and then then you'll have a problem because it was caused by this thing, but you can't remember where you changed it or what it was doing when you changed it. It's quite difficult.
Yeah.
Sam says the most annoying thing about the column block, it doesn't support wrapping. We've had that before. Putting a column block on top of a column block just doesn't work. Need a grid block or something like
a proper grid block. That's actually a grid, not flexbox.
Yeah, that's fine. And Emily also says, but it does seem that blocks in a template versus a page may not have the full width option. Oh.
Interestingly, on the template, the homepage template, it works fine. On the page template, it doesn't.
All right.
And they were built differently as well. Like the way that they were grouped between those two templates was different. So like the homepage template, I can't remember which way around it was, but I think the homepage template had an overall group, and then the header and footer and kind of content went within that overall group, whereas the page template had a group with the header in, a group with the title and content in, and a group with the footer in. So they were built differently. Why? I don't know, but
not sure.
Yeah.
Peter says, how to do something is so conditional on the environment, like what plugins and what themes you've got, and knowing the tricks. It's very hard to teach and learn.
That's really true.
It is, but isn't that the point of the block editor? That it shouldn't be like that. It should be easy. But it isn't.
I think that the difficulty is from, like, if I'm taking kind of Core's side for a second, the difficulty is that there's people like us asking for loads of flexibility, and we want to be able to do things any way we want. And so when they allow that to happen, people do things any way they want. Whereas if they kind of locked it down and said this is the way, then it might have been more effective, but it would have kicked up a massive stink. So you kind of can't win.
Yeah. Right. Let's move on from your experience of .com to another tricky task this week, and that was we are trying to get some customer reviews. These are reviews of our WordPress product, because we're doing some work on the website and marketing pages and things like that, and one of the key parts of that was to try and get some sort of social proof and get some customer reviews. And you have been tasked with doing that, Keith. How's it going?
Well, I've sent I don't know how many emails and not got any responses. So I don't know. Well, it's a point we're coming to in a minute. Our email deliverability has been a problem. So I don't know if people are getting these emails. I think they probably are. So I basically sent them an email saying, hey, you've been using WordPress for a while now. We'd love to know a little bit about your experiences. Your feedback's really valuable to us.
And these are people you've already communicated with as well. So they've already received your emails.
Yeah, they've already had plenty of emails from our domain and that email address. So so I got nothing back on the first round of trying that.
So what did you do instead?
So I've resorted to bribery, and I've said in my second email, seems that reviews are really hard to get. I understand, that people are busy, etc. So here's a sweetener: have a £20 Amazon voucher on us. Please go and fill out this form. So I created a form to kind of hopefully give it some structure and make it a bit easier for them. And we've had one. I think I sent that out to, I don't know.
I was going to say I haven't bought any Amazon vouchers yet, so
no. And I've had one response, and it was a really good review. And it was just like, sorry, I hadn't got around to this. Obviously the Amazon sweetener did work this time. But so I've had one, and I feel like I can't keep badgering these people, but I also feel like we really need some reviews. And I honestly don't think it's because they don't like the product. There might be like 2 out of those 12 that have had a 6 out of 10 experience because like we're learning as we go. But I think the vast majority of them seemed at least very, very happy with what we delivered. So I don't think that that's the problem.
But you get them all the time, don't you, from larger companies in your inbox? Leave us a review. And I never leave a review. And I just ignore them a lot. So to be fair, I kind of understand. It's that task that goes to the very bottom of everyone's list. Even if they've left it in their inbox, they're just going to leave it, and like they might never complete it. I kind of get that. So I guess the question is what other strategies are there to get some reviews? Because it would definitely help. I'm not
bribe
really
them with even more money.
Bribe them with even more money. I don't know. Maybe that would work.
Yeah, I don't know either. Like I feel like the email I wrote was good and concise, and I don't know. I think maybe it is just a question of, unless you've got a really good personal relationship. So say with our like retainer clients who we have been working with for years, and we chat to them every couple of weeks and we're constantly doing work for them. I guarantee if we ask them for a review, they might forget about it for a while, but they would genuinely want to do it and intend to do it. But if it's just kind of something that's you paid for, it's been set up, that's the end of the relationship. It's working. Like there's less of that personal, less of that personal touch, maybe.
I've just got one in my inbox. It's not actually a review. It's like vote for us in this award thing, basically. But it's like vote and you could win £1,000. So they've obviously gone for this is a bigger company, so they've got far more in it. But they've obviously gone for, instead of we'll give everybody a small amount of money if you do it, they've gone for we'll pool that together into one big pot, and then someone of whoever does a review will win the whole thing. Yeah. And is that more of an incentive then to say, actually, well, instead of giving 20 quid to everyone that fills us a nice review in, we'll put 200 quid together, and then the 20 people that give us a review, they might win it all.
Yeah. I've thought about that, but then for me, I see those like your chance to win X kind of thing. And I think, well, I have no idea how many people I'm up against. So I can't make that calculation in my head as to whether that 10 minutes is worth it or not. Whereas if I'm getting a £20 voucher for 5 minutes of my time, I know that that's a good use of my time.
Yeah.
And I just think I'd rather do that. But maybe I'm the exception. And like I'm so surprised that people haven't jumped at that. I thought 20 quid was really generous.
Well, Emily says include a link to review your regular email signatures. Possibly, we don't do that.
We don't. I don't really like email signatures. Yeah.
Elliot said incentivize is the way. Getting testimonials is difficult. Please, people need to give up their time, so do incentivize it. And then he also says 20 quid isn't enough, 200 quid, and they'll start rolling in.
I'm sure they will.
I think that's really interesting, isn't it? Because my gut instinct is like, 200 quid, I'm not paying 200 quid for a review. But then you think, well, how much is it worth?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that, but how much is it worth? It's probably worth more than 20 quid.
I reckon it's worth more than 20, yeah.
So where's that number, and where do you stop and say, like $2,000 for a review? Is it worth it? I don't know.
Yeah. We did video testimonials a while back, and people had to give up like half a day of their time, and we didn't incentivize them at all, which was pretty incredible.
They were really good.
Yeah.
If you can, video testimonials are obviously way more powerful.
Yeah.
But you put some conditions on these reviews, though, didn't you? What were the conditions?
What were the conditions?
I remember I saw the email, and you had 2 conditions that you said, we'll give you the 20 quid voucher if.
I think it was if they filled out the form reasonably, like as in,
not just putting like one-word answers in and
stuff.
Right.
I said at least like a couple of sentences per, like a sentence or two per question kind of thing. And I think the other one was just that they ticked we can use it publicly. We have to be able to use it publicly.
Yeah.
No, I think those are the only 2 conditions.
Yeah, publicly. Elliot's just had a good idea. Different businesses, but we give out 10% off if you do a review. We could do that.
I don't know if we can do that though, can we? Because once the subscription's set up, I don't know if we can discount future subscription payment. I'm not sure.
Because it happens automatically, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Don't know. Yeah, technicalities of subscriptions.
Yep.
Bane of my life. Exactly. Can I pay by invoice? Can I pay by bank transfer? No. You have to do it like that because it's too much hassle otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah. That's enough about that. So email deliverability. We touched on it there. So
yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it?
It is frustrating.
So we use Gmail, as people will know, because I'm sure we've talked about it before. And when we signed up for Gmail, we basically followed the steps that they told us. And apparently that's now no longer enough. You need to set up something called DMARC, I think it is. Which I'm not entirely sure what that does. If anyone knows in the chat, let us know. But I think it's authenticating that the email is coming from the right source. I think that's what it's for. So it's trying to stop the phishing emails and that sort of thing. And apparently some of the big email providers, is it Microsoft and Yahoo, I think, are basically going to reject any email that doesn't have the correct thing set up. That's my understanding of it. So we've been trying to set up using this DMARC thing, and again, I don't know what it is, so we've just been following the instructions in the Google's thing. And the first thing to do was to set a DKIM record in your DNS.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into it, and then you generate a record. It's a text record, and it provides this gobbledygook that you have to put into the DNS. So I copied it, put it into the DNS, and then you press the button that says authenticate. And then it just said error all the time. Just kept saying error. So it was like, well, it does say it might take 48 hours to wait. So we waited 48 hours. In fact, I think we waited 48 years. And it still didn't work. So I then thought, well, I've done exactly what it said. So I jumped onto support, Google's G Suite support, because I thought, well, we're paying for Google. Well, they should be able to help us. So the chap there talked me through this. And his suggestion was to change the 2048 to 1024. I don't even know what it is. Is it the length of the string or the encryption or something? I have no idea.
Right.
So I did that, regenerated it, stuck it into our DNS, and that seems to accept it, and it's now authenticating it, whatever that means, and that might take 48 hours. What we do from there I don't know. Excuse me. I'm going to have to just cough my guts up.
Okay. I've got no idea where we go from there. Basically,
Yeah.
These
So
things just
hopefully
don't
that'll work, and then
Yeah.
we can start the DMARC thing, whatever that is. But that's the next stage. So yeah, but it's a pain because I think we think this has been affecting our deliverability of emails. So you've had suspicions for a while that your email address was going into people's spam folder. I didn't seem to have the same problem. But more recently, we had a client where we had the conversation with them that they just weren't getting emails. And then not only that, they weren't getting emails from our support one either. So we're wondering whether that was the problem. And then we spoke with a sort of an expert on this, Tim Nash, you probably know, and he suggested that we were on a blacklist, apparently, for the IP address of our server. So that was the website, not the email. So Tim suggested that if we just put Cloudflare in front of it, then that would get rid of the fact that that IP address is blacklisted because it wouldn't have that IP address anymore. And that seemed to help, didn't it, for a while?
Yeah, we're not on the blacklist anymore when I do the.
And we're off the blacklist, so that's a good sign. But then obviously the next step is to do this, and then the other suggestion was to just change your email, like literally buy a new domain for email, completely separate. Don't even point it at a website for anything like that. So it's just completely clean, and set that up as well. So we're not against that. I don't want to change my email. I don't know about you. I don't really want to have to change that. So I'd rather get it sorted.
It feels right if we're highrise.digital as our domain to have Keith at highrise.digital as my email address. I almost feels borderline kind of shady if you don't. Like, I don't know. There's just something like, or like,
well, how many times you get an email from someone and then you copy the domain bit and paste it into the browser just to see, and then if it doesn't go anywhere and literally doesn't go anywhere because that's the idea of it. I don't know. It feels a bit shady to me, but
yeah, I don't love it. So I get that technically it's a very, very good solution, but I don't really want to use it.
Yeah. A couple of comments. Elliot, thank you. If you use something like SendGrid, you can monitor deliverability, open tracking etc. It's wild. I don't know what SendGrid is, to be honest.
It's like Mailgun.
Right.
It's a email.
But I wouldn't use that for
transactional email kind of server.
I'd use that for sending emails on a server. I wouldn't use that for like personal email, or would you? I don't know.
I guess you could.
Pass.
Yeah.
I don't know. Cameron, hi Cameron. I've been having email delivery businesses use 2 SPF DMARC are all set up. It refuses to send to @Gmail addresses, but will go everywhere else. Weird.
Yeah.
You've got further than us then, because you've got all those records or things set up.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they set up correctly, I suppose, is the question. Like, is Gmail rejecting them because there's an issue with them? But yeah, your guess is as good as mine on that one, sorry. And then Elliot also said, your host should be able to identify where you are blacklisted and they can make a request to get it removed. The host is us, essentially. It's DigitalOcean. So that's where it sort of falls down a bit, that we're not kind of with the host because they no one there to help us as such.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get there eventually, but we haven't got much time apparently.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to come and fix our email, send us an email and we might get it.
20 quid Amazon voucher for anyone who
we'll stretch it to 25.
Okay, I'll be generous. All right, let's wrap it up. We've gone for a long show. We're turning into like rambling old men now, aren't we? We're going long with these episodes, but it was good. Thanks for everyone for joining us, for watching along on YouTube, for listening on the podcast, for maybe watching on Twitter. Sorry, X. I know that's a thing as well. So if you want to get in touch, we do love to hear from you. You can catch us on Twitter at the WP Cafe Show, or at Keith Devon, or at WP Mark. We always love to hear from you. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll be back next week, same time. See you there.
Bye bye.